Hello students, today we will be starting with lesson number 2 of Physical Geography of India. In the first chapter, I have told you that yes, we have varied landforms in India, mountains, plains, plateaus, desert. Do you think all these landforms were existing like this as ever? No, they were never like this. They took millions of years to get formed like this. Indian history has a history, but even the earth has a history. The earth is approximately 460 million years old. Over these long years, it has gone many changes, and these changes are because of the endogenic and the exogenic forces. What are endogenic forces? The forces or the processes which take place inside the surface of the earth, and exogenic, the forces and the processes which bring changes on the surface of the earth. Due to these endogenic, exogenic forces, the earth has undergone many changes. These forces have played a significant role in giving shape to the surface and subsurface features of the earth. The lateral movements of the plates. What are plates? All the oceans and continents, they are lying on the plates. Plate tectonic, the movements of these plates, they have resulted in the formation of various continents. As you see, when the earth started its history, its life, all the continents were together. They were known as Pangaea. This part you have studied in the fundamental parts of India, the other book that you have in class 11, Geography. So we had Pangaea as a huge landmass surrounded by one single sea, which was known as Panthalassa. So these continents, they started drifting apart just because of the plate tectonics, endogenic and exogenic forces. Now, when we talk about India, the Indian plate was to the south of the equator millions of years ago. It was much larger in size, and the Australian plate was the part of the Indian plate. Over millions of years, the plate broke into various parts, and the Australian plate moved towards the southeastern direction, and the Indian plate started moving towards the north. The northward movement of Indian plate is still continuing, and it has significant consequences on the physical environment of the Indian subcontinent. So, when these plate tectonic, endogenic and exogenic forces resulted in various formations, various landforms, the physiography of India can be discussed now. Physiography means the different physical divisions of India, the topography, mountains, plains, plateaus, coasts, all of them, they have different relief, different altitude. So, physiography of an area is the outcome of structure process and the stage of development. The land of India is characterized by great diversity in its physical features. You must have visited various places in India. Try to identify the region where you live. Try to identify the physiography of that region, whether it is a mountain, a plateau or a plain, or it is a desert region or any landform related to physical features. The north has a vast expanse of rugged topography. The northern part of India consists of a series of mountain ranges with varied peaks, beautiful valleys and deep gorges. Beautiful valleys means very V-shaped and U-shaped valleys. Gorges means I-shaped valleys. The southern part of India, the peninsular India, consists of stable tableland with highly dissected plateaus. Dissected plateaus which are dissected by the rivers also. Denuded rocks, the denudation, degradation because of the exogenic forces also, and developed series of scarps. In between these two, that means mountains of the north and the sub-plateau of the south, lies the vast North Indian plain, the great northern plain of India. So children, according to the formation, according to the geological divisions of India, India can be divided into three geological divisions: the Peninsular Block, the Himalayas and other peninsular mountains, Indo-Ganga Brahmaputra plain. All these divisions, they are made up of different type of materials, namely the rocks, and they took different time to get formed. Let us talk about the Peninsular Block now. The Peninsular India or the Peninsular Block is formed essentially by great complex of very ancient gneisses and granites forming the major parts of it. Granite and gneisses are the old rocks, old metamorphic and igneous rocks. The northern boundary of the Peninsular Block may be taken as an irregular line running from Kutch along the western flank of the Aravalli range near Delhi and then roughly parallel to the Yamuna and the Ganga as far as Rajmahal Hills and the Ganga Delta. See how much far area it covers. Apart from these, the Karbi Anglong and the Meghalaya Plateau in the northeast and Rajasthan in the west are also the extension of this Peninsular Block. The northeastern part of the Peninsular Block are separated by the Malda Fault in West Bengal from the Chota Nagpur Plateau. Now you see, when the Peninsular Block is formed by the ancient rocks, namely gneisses and granite, they are also known as the oldest structure of India, the very stable landform of India. Since the Cambrian period, the peninsula has been standing like a rigid block, a very hard block, with the exception of some of the western coast, which is submerged beneath the sea, and some other parts change due to tectonic activity without affecting the original basement. So the peninsular part, the triangular tableland, is the oldest structure. As the part of the Indo-Australian plate, children, remember I have told you India subcontinent was the part of Indo-Australian plate. It has been subjected to various vertical movements and block faulting. Block faulting means it results in formation of block mountains and rift valleys. The rift valleys of Narmada and Tapi and Mahanadi and Satpura block mountains are some examples. Narmada and Tapi, they flow through the rift valleys. Mahanadi also and Satpura are the block mountains found in the peninsular block. So, this peninsular block is standing rigid. The rift valleys of Narmada, Tapi, Mahanadi, they are the examples of the formation in the peninsular block. This peninsula mostly consists of relict and residual mountains like the Aravalli Hills, the Nallamala Hills, the Javadi Hills, the Velikonda Hills, and of course the Mahendragiri Hills, which are the part of Eastern Ghats. The river valleys here are shallow, they are not very deep, they are not very wide, with very low gradients. Most of the east flowing rivers, they form delta before entering into Bay of Bengal, whereas the west flowing rivers, they form estuaries, and the west flowing rivers are Narmada and Tapi, and east flowing rivers are Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri. Now that was the first geological division according to the formation. Let us talk about the Himalayan and Peninsular mountains. Whenever mountains come to your mind, it is always the Himalayas you can think about. But no children, we have many mountains, hilly ranges in the peninsular part of India also. The Himalayas along with other peninsular mountains are young. Young means we know their formation. They are weak and flexible. These Himalayas are more prone to landslides and earthquakes. Therefore, we call them weak. They are flexible in their geological structure, unlike rigid and stable peninsular block. Children, now you know the difference between the peninsular block and the Himalayan region. The peninsular block is the oldest and the stable and the rigid structure, whereas the Himalayas are the young, weak and flexible mountains. They are still subjected to the interplay of exogenic and endogenic forces. That means after the formation of continents, the tectonic plates didn't stop. They kept on doing their work, they kept on moving. Similarly, the exogenic processes like movement of rivers, glaciers, wind and other agents of gradation also kept on working. So, they resulted in the development of faults, folds and thrust plains. These mountains are tectonic in origin. I told you they are prone to, vulnerable to earthquakes. They are dissected by fast flowing rivers which are in their youthful stage. Fast flowing means when a river flows from a high mountain, the velocity is very high. So, the agent of gradation as an agent of gradation is working very fast. These mountains are tectonic, I have told you. So, various landforms, they are formed like gorges, I-shaped valleys, V-shaped valleys, rapids, waterfalls. So, because this is a young stage, these are the features which are formed in the young stage. Now, we talk about the third geological division of India. Children, remember, we are not talking about the physical features. We are talking about the geological divisions that we are dividing India into. The third is Indo-Ganga-Brahmaputra plain. The plains formed by the interplay of river Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra. So, originally it was a geosyncline depression. When the Himalayas were being formed, a huge depression was formed between the plateau and the mountain region. So, that depression was known as geosyncline depression. That depression got filled up with the sediments brought by the rivers, namely Indus, Ganga, Brahmaputra along with their tributaries. So, this formation of northern plains attained its maximum development during the third phase of Himalayan mountain formation. Let's say approximately 64 million years ago. Since then, it has been gradually filled by the sediments, alluvium brought by the Himalayan and the peninsular rivers. Average depth of alluvial deposit in these plains ranges from 1000 to 2000 meters. So, children, these were the three geological divisions according to the ancient formation, which was the result of endogenic, exogenic and plate tectonics. Now, in the next part, I will be explaining you about the major physiographic divisions of India. So, the major physiographic divisions of India are the northern and northeast mountains, the great northern plains, the great peninsular plateau, the Indian desert or the Marusthali, the eastern and the western coastal plains, and of course, not to forget our island groups.